you live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. India condemns airstrikes in Afghanistan, calls for protection of civilians and respect for UN Charter. Indigo operations normalized, control room oversight to continue, says Minister Ram Mohan Naidu. CEO asked to appear before DGCA. US seizes massive oil tanker off Venezuela. Caracas accuses Washington of blatant theft. US lawmakers approve major defense bill to strengthen European security. Move was seen as rebuke to Trump's threats against NATO and allies. And after a dominant win in the series opener, India will look to double their lead when face South Africa in the second T20 International today in New Chandigarh. Well, moving on to the details now, India has condemned airstrikes, killing of innocent women, children and cricketers in Afghanistan by Pakistan at the United Nations Security Council. Now, speaking at the UNSC briefing on the UN assistance mission in Afghanistan today, India's permanent representative to the UN, Parvataneni Harish, also expressed concerns over practicing of trade and transit terrorism with people of Afghanistan by cynical closure of access for a landlocked country.
And condemns the killing of innocent women, children and cricketers in Afghanistan. We add our voice to calls for paying full respect to the United Nations Charter and international law, with particular attention to protection of innocent civilians. We also note with grave concern the practice of trade and transit terrorism that the people of Afghanistan are being subjected to by the cynical closure of access for a landlocked country whose people are suffering numerous debilitating conditions since many years. These acts are in violation of WTO norms. Such open threats and acts of war against a fragile and vulnerable LLDC nation trying to rebuild in difficult circumstances constitute a blatant violation of the UN Charter and international law. While we condemn such acts, we also strongly support the territorial integrity, sovereignty, and independence of Afghanistan. India continues to closely monitor the security situation in Afghanistan. The international community must coordinate efforts towards ensuring that entities and individuals designated by the UN Security Council, the ISIL and Al-Qaeda and their affiliates, including the Lashkar-e-Taiba and the Jaish-e-Mohammed, and proxies of the LET such as the Resistance Front, along with those who facilitate their operations, are no longer indulge in cross-border terrorism.
Well, the ambassador also called for a pragmatic engagement with the Taliban. He asserted that a coherent policy of engagement should insensitize policy and positive actions. Envoy Harish informed that India will construct a 30-bed hospital in Kabul's Bagrami district, an oncology center and a trauma center in Kabul, and 5 maternity health clinics. India also continues to extend medical assistance and provide high-quality healthcare treatment to the Afghan nationals. And for more, we have Akshay Tongre joining us on this. Well, Akshay, India has strongly condemned the airstrikes in Afghanistan and, of course, raised a lot of concerns about Pakistan's action as well. At the UNSC briefing also, he expressed concerns on terrorism. Could you tell us more about it?
Well, absolutely. And in fact, the country that has been, has been battered by war, has been battered by non-state actors trying to take over different aspects of governance is and a country that has been considered a place that was run by terrorists is also a country that is now even that country, Afghanistan, that remains economically battered, that remains a victim of terrorism, is also a country that is accusing Pakistan financing non-state actors, financing terrorism into their borders, financing these kind of terror proxies in their groups that have tried to create terrorism not only in their country but in the neighboring countries as well. In Lubakshi, what we have to understand is that after the Taliban takeover that was supported initially, or rather for a very long time by Pakistan, that was funded by Pakistan for ulterior motives, has not turned out exactly what Pakistan expected it to be. Pakistan expected that after Taliban comes to power, it will help Pakistan in the kind of sort of terror activities that it is involved in. However, what has turned out is somewhat exactly opposite. Taliban regime is more interested in governing the country rather than acting as a terror group like the Pakistani terror groups have been acting like, and that has been an utter disappointment for the Pakistani regime, both the military and the military intelligence, because to be fair, the democratic setup does not work in Pakistan, and that's the reason why what we are seeing is what we are seeing. The kind of attacks against Taliban regime, the kind of attack against Afghan people, the sort of action against the immigrants who had, or rather the refugees of Afghanistan that were living in Pakistan. So range of action that is being taken only because Taliban refuses to join Pakistan and join Pakistani hands as far as terror activities across the world are concerned.
All right. Also, Akshay, the ambassador called for a pragmatic engagement with Taliban, and simultaneously he highlighted several healthcare projects in Kabul, including a hospital, oncology, trauma centers, maternity clinic. A big help for Afghanistan's current humanitarian situation, is it?
Well, Taliban governs Afghanistan. That's a reality. Taliban is the present government in Afghanistan. That's the present regime, largely accepted by people as
Yes.
well. You know what we can say. They are governing the people. We don't have to sit on judgment. What kind of principles they have, what kind of methods they have as far as governing is concerned. But at this point in time, what we have to see is the welfare of the people of Afghanistan. We cannot let the people suffer just because Taliban is governing the state. Even before Taliban came to power, India has been one of the countries that has supported humanitarian efforts, that has supported the setup of democratic, government, including the building of parliament there in Afghanistan, and other kind of humanitarian efforts that have gone for decades. And now Taliban regime has come, but still the people of India remain friends with the people of Taliban. We have had historical traditional ties for centuries, in fact millennia. And now just because Taliban is governing there, and we may have difference in opinion and ideology with Taliban, does not mean we will start airstriking to the people of Afghanistan like Pakistan is doing. Pakistan has been one of the few countries in the world that had supported the return of Taliban, but just because Taliban is not actually dancing to the tunes of Pakistani military generals, it's taking these kind of actions of killing Afghan people. So that is where both the countries, India and Pakistan, differ. While Pakistan continues to kill Afghans, India is trying to take as many progressive as well as humanitarian efforts in the country as possible to ensure that the people of Afghan stay safe, and something is done for their welfare as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Akshay, for all those details. And moving on, even as Indigo operations across the country have stabilized, the Civil Aviation Ministry continues to closely oversee the operations through the ministry's control room. Now, Civil Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Naidu is maintaining a regular vigil for real-time resolution of passenger grievances. In a social media post, the minister informed that the control room team is making all efforts to further enhance the response time for prompt and effective redressal of passenger concerns. Passengers facing any issue may seek assistance by tagging official Twitter account of Ministry of Civil Aviation, that is at @mocha_goal on X, contacting the ministry's control room at 011 2460 4283 and 011 2463 2986. 7 or by registering their grievance on the Air Seva app or the web portal. Well, further, Aviation Safety Regulator DGCA has directed Indigo's Chief Executive Officer Peter Elbers to appear at its office on Thursday and submit a complete report along with comprehensive data and updates relating to the recent operational disruptions. The Elbers has been asked to appear at the DGCA office at 1500 IST on Thursday. The Directorate General of Civil Aviation also said that the CEO, along with senior officials from all relevant departments, has been instructed to attend the meeting. DGCA panel probing the disruptions has asked the airline to present information on the flight restoration, recruitment plan of pilots and crew with updated position of pilot and cabin crew strength, the number of flights cancelled and refunds processed, among others. The 4-member committee has been mandated to identify the root causes behind the operational breakdown. Also, low visibility conditions due to fog affects flight operations, and in view of which Civil Aviation Minister Raman Naidu held a preliminary review meeting on Wednesday to assess the preparedness. Now, he gave clear instructions to ensure smooth and safe operations throughout the winter schedule with effective coordination among all the stakeholders. He said that the special emphasis was on timely communication and the convenience of passengers. The minister assured that further comprehensive meetings will be convened to thoroughly inspect the overall readiness for the fog window of winter schedule. And India's busiest airport, the Delhi airport, has significantly strengthened its winter readiness with next generation AI systems, advanced predictive analytics, and enhanced runway capabilities, ensuring safer, more efficient flight operations and minimal passenger disruption during low visibility conditions. Now, in these Delhi airport's Airport Predictive Operations Center plays a central role by integrating real-time data, predictive weather models, and airside operational inputs into a single command environment. The APOC enables faster decision-making and more accurate resource deployment during fog. This coordinated data-driven approach significantly enhances the airport's ability to maintain operational continuity even during rapid fluctuations in visibility. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi received a telephone call from the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. Both the leaders expressed satisfaction at the continued momentum in India-Israel strategic partnership and reaffirmed their commitment to further strengthening of these ties for mutual benefit. The two leaders strongly condemned terrorism and reiterated their zero-tolerance approach towards terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. They also exchanged views on the situation in West Asia. PM Modi reaffirmed India's support for efforts towards a just and durable peace in the region, including early implementation of the Gaza peace plan. Now, the two leaders agreed to remain in touch as well. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi met Vice Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of Italy, Antonio Tajani, in New Delhi on Wednesday. Prime Minister Modi expressed appreciation for the proactive measures adopted by both sides for the implementation of the Joint Strategic Action Plan, Italy-India 2025 to 2029 in key sectors such as trade, investments, research, innovation, defense, space, connectivity, counterterrorism, education and interpersonal relations. The friendship between India and Italy continues to strengthen with great benefits for our people and the global community. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met the visiting dignitary and reviewed the growing strategic partnership between the two countries. The leaders discussed cooperation in defense, maritime security and space, regional issues including developments in the Indo-Pacific, West Asia and the Ukraine conflict also featured in the talks. Jaishankar, in his opening remark, thanked Italy for its solidarity after last month's terror incident in New Delhi and highlighted the recent India-Italy initiative to counter terror financing announced at the G20 summit.
Thank you also for the message of solidarity from the government of Italy when we had this terror incident last month in New Delhi. Of course, recently when our Prime Ministers met in the G20 in Johannesburg, we announced the joint initiative to counter financing on terrorism. That was a very positive step. We work with Italy. We regard you as one of our closest partners in that, including in the FATF, the Financial Action Task Force.
And time now for a short break. We'll be back in a while.
Green technology can really help protect our planet if it doesn't harm our communities in the process.
The solar panels of all the 5 sets cumulative is around 80 kilowatt. So per year there is a saving of around 1 lakh units.
As long as you have high concentrations versus low, then you can sort of harvest energy this way.
Each village has its own unique problems. We need to develop a scientifically sound, yet simple model that local people can understand and implement.
Work outdoors where environmental conditions constantly change. Some weeds are larger, some smaller with different leaf shapes. With AI, many of them can be learned and controlled much more easily. That's why AI is a small revolution in this field.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kuran, and moving on. The United States has seized an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela. President Donald Trump informed this, ratcheting up tensions with Caracas in a move that also raised the oil prices.
As you probably know, we've just seized a tanker on the coast of Venezuela. Large tanker, very large. Largest one ever seized, actually. And other things are happening, so you'll be seeing that later, and you'll be talking about that later with some other people.
Explain a little more about this Venezuelan oil tanker and share a little more information about...
Well, I'll let the people do it, but you see the result, and I guess they probably have released the pictures by now, or pretty soon. You'll discuss that with the appropriate people later on, but no, it was seized for a very good reason.
Well, a video was published by U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi. She said that the tanker was part of an illicit oil shipping network used to carry sanctioned oil from Venezuela and Iran. It is the first known action against an oil tanker since Trump ordered a massive U.S. military buildup in the region and carried out strikes against suspected drug vessels, operations that have raised concerns among Democratic lawmakers and legal experts. Also, the U.S. has imposed sanctions on the tanker for what Washington said was involvement in Iranian oil trading when it was called the Odessa. Meanwhile, Venezuela's foreign ministry strongly denounced and condemned the accusation, saying what constitutes blatant theft and an act of international piracy, publicly announced by the President of the United States. And a federal judge in California on Wednesday ordered an end to Donald Trump's deployment of National Guard troops to Los Angeles and directed that they be returned to the control of the state's Democratic governor. The ruling by San Francisco-based U.S. district judge represented the latest legal setback for Trump and his efforts to deploy National Guard troops to Democratic-controlled cities. Now, the judge found Trump overstepped his authority by taking control of California National Guard units and sending them to Los Angeles and elsewhere in response to protest against federal immigration authorities. Judge said there was no evidence to support the administration's claim that the protests were a rebellion against the government that legally justified sending in troops. Judge also rejected the administration's claim that courts have no power to review a president's decision to take control of the state National Guard units during an emergency, saying this was an overly expansive view of presidential authority. And U.S. lawmakers approved a sweeping defense bill bolstering European security, a sharp rebuke to President Donald Trump's mounting threats to downgrade Washington's ties to traditional allies and NATO. The bipartisan House of Representatives vote came on the heels of a publication of a White House national security strategy that amounted to a startling attack on Europe. Now, by contrast, the House's $900 billion Pentagon bill stands out for its pro-Europe orientation and its clampdown on Trump's authority to reduce the Trump numbers. Also, Trump administration accuses European nations of taking advantage of American generosity and of failing to take responsibility for their own destiny. But lawmakers are explicitly moving in the opposite direction, deepening U.S. resources for the Baltic states and hardening NATO's northeastern flank. Now, the 2026 National Defense Authorization Act, which now advances to the Senate, carries a robust $8 billion more than the funding Trump requested in May. Well, continuing with updates on Russia-Ukraine issues, the leaders of Britain, France and Germany spoke with U.S. President Donald Trump to discuss Washington's latest peace efforts to the conflict. Now, Trump said European partners were urging a meeting in Europe over the weekend involving both Ukrainian President Zelensky and the United States, but it said he would only decide on attending once he received the answers from them. In separate statements, the E3 countries praised the Trump administration's efforts to achieve a robust and lasting peace in Ukraine. Donald Trump also expressed concern that Ukraine had not had an election in a long time and that the country is facing a massive corruption situation.
And I do wonder about, how long is it going to be till they have an election? It's democracy. It's a long time. They haven't had an election in a long time. And I do say, at what point, when do they have an election in Ukraine? That's not casting dispersions on anybody, but they do have a massive corruption situation going on there. So I think it's time to get that war settled.
Well, meanwhile, Ukrainian President Zelensky said that he had discussed with Ukraine's parliament legal and other issues linked to the possibility of holding an election and urged other countries as well not to apply pressure on the issue.
Today, I spoke with representatives of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine. We had a substantive discussion. I will not allow any speculation against Ukraine. If partners, including our key partner in Washington, speak so much and so specifically about elections in Ukraine, about elections under martial law, then we must provide legal Ukrainian answers to every question and every doubt. It is not easy, but pressure on this issue is definitely not what we need.
Well, European countries plan further talks in the next few days to coordinate efforts on a peace process for the war in Ukraine. At a news conference with his Croatian counterpart, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz said that he wanted an EU agreement on the use of frozen Russian assets for Ukraine. He also added that Ukraine was committed to achieving a negotiated solution. Croatia also signed a memorandum of understanding with Germany to buy 44 Leopard A2A8 tanks. And representatives of the German and Polish defense ministries marked the deployment of German Air Force Eurofighters to Melbourne in Poland. The 5 German Eurofighters and around 150 personnel from the German Air Force are operating as part of NATO's Eastern Sentry mission and will remain stationed in Melbourne until March 2026. For the German Air Force, the mission in Melbourne marks the second concurrent air policing detachment, with the previous deployment to Romania since April 2025 amid rising tensions with Russia. And Bolivian ex-president Luis Arce was arrested in La Paz as part of an investigation into alleged graft committed when he was an economy minister. The Arce did not seek re-election in an August vote that brought an end to 2 decades of leftist rule in Bolivia, with his presidency marred by critical shortages of fuel and foreign currency that sparked numerous protests. Arce is accused of authorizing transfers from the public treasury to the personal accounts of political leaders. The corruption probe stems from when Arce was Minister of Economy under socialist then-President Evo Morales, who was in office from the year 2006 to 2019. And Thailand and Cambodia traded accusations of targeting the civilians in artillery and rocket attacks on Wednesday, as U.S. President Donald Trump said he would try to intervene to stop the fighting and salvage a ceasefire he brokered earlier this year. The clashes raged at more than a dozen locations along the border in some of the most intense fighting since a 5-day battle in July, which Trump stopped with calls to both the leaders to halt their worst conflict in recent history. Also, Trump on Wednesday said he was scheduling a phone call for Thursday with Thailand and Cambodia regarding the conflict between the 2 Southeast Asian countries. And U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio welcomed Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar to the State Department on Wednesday. This is the 4th meeting between the 2 leaders and comes ahead of a scheduled meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Donald Trump on December 29th to discuss the next steps of the Gaza ceasefire. A ceasefire between Israel and Hamas came into effect in October. Both sides have repeatedly accused each other of violating the truce, and wide gaps remain on key issues yet to be discussed under Trump's plan to end the conflict, including Hamas disarmament, the governance of post-war Gaza, and the composition and mandate of an international security force in the enclave. And U.S. President Donald Trump said that a variety of leaders want to be on the board, which was established under a Gaza plan. A United Nations Security Council resolution adopted on November 17th authorized a board of peace and countries working with it to establish a temporary international stabilization force in Gaza. The resolution drafted by the U.S. described the board of peace as a transitional administration that will set the framework and coordinate funding for the redevelopment of Gaza in the line with Trump's 20-point peace plan.
The Gaza plan, when do you expect to announce members of the Board of Peace, the leadership of that?
Well, we'll do it early next year. And the Board of Peace are going to, it'll be one of the most legendary boards ever. Everybody wants to be on it. It's mostly going to be, I guess, you know, we weren't thinking about it that way, but they want to all do it. Basically, it'll be the heads of the most important countries.
Mr. President.
They all want to be on. It wasn't really planned. We thought we were going to get very distinguished people that do that kind of thing for a living. But really, it looks like it's turning out to be they want to be on. The heads, the kings and the presidents, prime ministers, they all want to be on the board of peace.
And moving on, Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth met with defense ministers from Australia and Britain, touting the hard power of the AUKUS defense deal between the countries. The plan for AUKUS, announced in 2023 under the previous Biden administration, envisages the U.S. selling several Virginia-class nuclear-powered submarines to Australia, while Britain and Australia will later build a new AUKUS-class submarine using U.S. technology. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado appeared in Oslo, Norway after winning the Nobel Peace Prize, waving from the balcony of the Grand Hotel after months in hiding. Machado made the covert journey despite a travel ban and has mostly laid low since Venezuela's disputed presidential election in 2024. She last appeared in public in January. A former construction worker in Bosnia has reinvented himself as a modern-day Vikings-type Plek, who left a well-paid job in Germany 7 years ago, now lives in his native village of Stepanici, embracing a Norse-inspired lifestyle he describes as complete freedom. Plek earns a living crafting Viking-style axes and tools in his themed home. Mexico City's main avenues glowing red as flower poinsettias take over for the Christmas season. The bright flower of Christmas Eve has been part of Mexican tradition since ancient times and now fills homes, businesses and public spaces across the capital. City Xochimilco remains the main spot where locals go to buy their festive poinsettias. Dozens of endangered sea turtles have moved into Florida Keys Turtle Hospital for the winter months, seeking respite from the cold temperatures. These ectothermic turtles are to be rehabilitated from colder conditions. Cold-stunned turtles' metabolism slows down, stop eating and cannot swim. These turtles are expected to be returned to warmer conditions. And still to come on DD India News Now. We'll give you all the update from Parliament's winter session as marathon debates continue. And we'll bring you the latest on weather conditions around the world. IF marks 1971 victory with spectacular Vijay Diwas air display in Dibrugarh.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Now. Lipakshi Kuran, and moving on, the winter session of Parliament is now entering a crucial phase with both the houses witnessing marathon debates on issues that directly impact the citizens. In the upper house, there will be a discussion on the 150th anniversary of Vande Mataram. After that, the house will begin a discussion on electoral reforms. In the Lok Sabha today, the finance minister will move the proposal to introduce the appropriation bill, which will restore the bill that authorizes appropriation from India's Consolidated Fund for Services during 2025 to 26. She'll also introduce the appropriation number 4 bill and will get it passed as well. On Wednesday, discussions continue on another subject deeply rooted in India's cultural consciousness, the 150-year legacy of Vande Mataram. Leaders across party lines came together to celebrate the song's contribution to the freedom movement and its enduring emotional and historical significance. It was another high-intensity day inside the lower house as the debate on electoral reforms entered its next round. Members from across the political spectrum took part, voicing concerns, suggestions and sharp counter arguments on how India's election processes can be strengthened for the future. And for more on the Parliament, we have Dibyendu Mondal joining us. Well, Dibyendu, we have seen members across party lines marking the 150-year legacy of Vande Mataram. Tell us more about the discussion.
Well, Lipakshi, remember this discussion began on Monday. In the lower house of Parliament. Yes. It began with the Prime Minister opening this debate on the floor of the House. We have seen this debate going on for the last 3 days now. Today it will be entering on the 4th day.
Yes.
And of course, we have seen plethora of leaders cutting across political party lines in both the houses of Parliament have expressed their views, opinions about the song that was written somewhere 150 years back, celebrating its legacy, its rich cultural and spiritual history that connected people during India's freedom struggle and its relevance in the modern contemporary India. So therefore, this discussion has brought together all political parties on a similar table. I don't recall anybody disagreeing with the greatness of the song and that how this song had been able to unite and give inspiration to the freedom fighters of India, and how this song still inspires millions of people. The defense forces, all political parties still chant Vande Mataram during their executive meets or during their parliamentary board meet. So therefore, this song still holds relevance, which hails the motherland, India. And, we have heard, Union Home Minister Amit Shah, we have heard Prime Minister Narendra Modi, we're expecting to hear from JP Nadda. So therefore, senior leaders from the BJP as well as from the opposition, we also heard Rahul Gandhi, we also heard Priyanka Gandhi speak on this matter, Gaurav Gogoi from Akhilesh Yadav, to the Trinamool Congress, all cutting across political party lines have expressed their views and have praised the role that Vande Mataram has been playing in our lives and in inspiring nationalism and patriotism in the people of this country, Nipakshi.
Absolutely. Also, Debindu, on the other hand, the debate on electoral reforms has clearly intensified in both the houses. What are the key concerns and proposals emerging?
Well, Nipakshi, this is a week of marathon debates that are currently underway in both the houses of parliament. On one hand, as we just spoke about Vande Mataram, and on the other hand, we are having the debate on electoral reforms. This was a long-standing demand from the opposition party to have this debate on the floor of the House. And both the Lok Sabha, in fact, yesterday the Lok Sabha concluded the electoral reforms debate with the Union Home Minister Amit Shah, giving almost an hour and a half long speech and clarifying all the acquisition that the opposition parties have been making both inside and outside the parliament. If you hear the speech of Union Home Minister Amit Shah in the Lok Sabha yesterday, he categorically mentioned a couple of pointers that that was being constantly raised by the opposition parties and creating a sense of confusion. So therefore, Amit Shah had said that there is this confusion is being created to mislead the people, and there is no basis as to the concept of whether the election commission is rigged, and he had laid down pointers to bring down the allegations of the opposition parties that they had been making. Today we will see a similar debate in the Rajya Sabha, which is expected to begin post noon. This debate in the Rajya Sabha will also be for about 10 hours long, and then it will conclude in the upper house as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Dibyendu, for that parliament update. And moving on, President Draupadi Murmu is scheduled for her first two-day visit to Manipur starting on Thursday. The visit will focus on Imphal. On December 11th, on arrival at Imphal, the President will be accorded a guard of honor. Subsequently, she will visit historic Mapal Kangjebang to witness the polo exhibition match. On the same evening, the President will attend a civic reception to be hosted by the government of Manipur in her honor at the City Convention Centre, Imphal. She will also lay foundation stones and inaugurate various developmental projects on the occasion. On December 12th, the President will visit the Nupi Lal Memorial Complex at Imphal and pay her respects to the brave women warriors of Manipur. Later, at Senapati, she will address a public function during which she will lay the foundation stones and inaugurate various projects for the district as well. An Italian Minister, Antonio Tajani, and India's Minister of Commerce and Industry, Piyush Goyal, will chair the Italy-India Business Forum in Mumbai today. The forum will focus on economic cooperation in the automotive, renewable energy, sports technologies, and agri-food sectors. Now, bilateral trade between the two countries was valued at $13.76 billion in financial year 2025. And the United Nations Children's Fund, or UNICEF, was established on this day in 1946 to address the long-term needs of children and women in developing nations. In its latest report, it flags how millions of children across the world still lack access to basic services. It also highlights the positive impact of reforms for child welfare in India.
UNICEF Foundation Day is celebrated annually on December 11th. According to UNICEF's The State of the World's Children 2025 report, more than 1 in 5 children in low and middle income countries, about 400 million globally, are deprived of at least 2 areas critical for their health, development and well-being. The report highlights that the youngest children, those with disabilities and those living in crisis, are particularly vulnerable. India is the most populous country and home to approximately 460 million children under the age of 18. UNICEF India has highlighted significant progress made by the country in poverty reduction and how India's flagship programs have supported investments in children. India is on track for Sustainable Development Goal 1.2 ahead of the 2030 end line. India helped 248 million citizens, including children, escape multidimensional poverty between 2013-14 and 2022-23. National Multidimensional Poverty Index rate has dropped from 29.2% to 11.3%. Significant increase in social protection coverage from 19% in 2015 to 64.3%, reaching 940 million citizens in 2025. Flagship programs like Poshan Abhiyan, Samagra Shiksha, PM Kisan, Midday Meal Scheme, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, Swachh Bharat, Jal Jeevan missions, and India's world-leading digital public infrastructure has converged to deliver nutrition, education, income support, sanitation, and financial inclusion at scale.
गर्भवती महिलाओं के लिए जो मातृ वंदना योजना चल रही है, उसमें भी माताओं के खाते में सीधे पैसे जा रहे हैं ताकि उस समय 9 महीने के उस कालखंड में वो अच्छा पोषण ले सके ताकि पेट में जो बच्चा पल रहा है उसका स्वास्थ्य भी ठीक हो और प्रसूता में कोई संकट ना आ जाए, मां या बच्ची की जिंदगी बच जाए। मेरी माताओं बहनों, आपका स्वास्थ्य ये हमारी प्राथमिकता है।
Globally, millions of children still lack access to basic services such as education, clean water, safe sanitation, housing, health and nutrition. The United Nations Children's Fund, or UNICEF, was established in 1946 to provide aid to children after the Second World War. UNICEF's mandate was extended in 1950 to address the long-term needs of children and women in developing nations. Shubhendu Ghosh for DD India.
Well, large parts of north and central India are bracing for a harsher than usual winter, with the Met Department warning of normal to below normal minimum temperatures across these regions from December 2025 to February 2026. In other parts of the world, heavy flooding has hit northern England after Storm Bram brought intense rain and winds. The storm triggered a severe travel disruption with buses, trains and flights delayed or cancelled. Authorities closed several major roads after multiple crashes were reported in the region. Mass funerals were held in Indonesia as unclaimed victims of the recent flash floods and landslides were laid to rest in Padang in Indonesia's West Sumatra province. Police said 235 bodies have been identified so far, while the remaining 24 had gone unclaimed. They were buried in a mass funeral in Padang for more than a week since the disaster struck in late November. Severe flooding hits western Washington as an atmospheric river dumped heavy rain across the region. The U.S. National Weather Service issued fresh alerts, warning of landslides, catastrophic flooding across western Washington and parts of northern Oregon. And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. Uttar Pradesh has launched its first AI and robotics lab at PM Shri Rajkiya Queen's Inter College in Varanasi, built at a cost of 50 lakh rupees. The lab will train students in robotics, drones, IoT and AI innovations, giving access to advanced tools. Delhi Tourism has started a new morning tour that lets visitors watch the weekly change of guard ceremony at Rashtrapati Bhavan and get close views for the photos. Tickets for the morning tour are 200 rupees and must be pre-booked online through the Delhi Tourism portal. The Indian Air Force commemorated its 1971 war victory with a grand aerial display at Mohanbari Air Force Station, Dibrugarh. Air Chief Marshal Amarpreet Singh attended the Vijay Diwas event, while Su-30s, Do-228s, AN-32s, Chinooks and Mi-17s showcased IAF's strength. The Eastern Air Command organized a celebration which also featured an exhibition and a special film honoring the 1971 war especially. And still to come on DD India News Now. Trump administration unveils a $1 million Trump Gold Card visa program offering fast-track U.S. residency. Fed cuts rates amid a deep split, signals pause as inflation stays elevated and outlook uncertain. And fans in Kolkata prepare for Messi's visit on the 13th of December.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Hello. Johar. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and on to some business news now. U.S. President Donald Trump's administration officially launched his Trump Gold Card visa program to provide a pathway with a steep price for non-U.S. citizens to get expedited permission to live in the United States. The website trumpcard.gov, complete with an Apply Now button, allows interested applicants to pay a $15,000 fee to the Department of Homeland Security for speedy processing. And the Federal Reserve cut interest rates on Wednesday in another divided vote, but signaled it will likely pause further reductions in borrowing costs as the U.S. Central Bank looks for clearer signals about the direction of the job market and inflation that remains elevated. Now, the decision to lower the benchmark policy rate by 0.25 percentage point to the 3.50% to 3.75% range, but faced 3 dissents. New projections show only one rate cut expected in the year 2026. When you're watching DD India News, our time now for some sports news. Suryakumar Yadav-led India will take on Aiden Markaram's South Africa in the second of the 5-match T20 International Series on Thursday in Chandigarh. The host thumped the visitors by 101 runs in the first T20 International to take 1-0 lead in the series. India managed to put on a decent total, and with the ball, they bundled out the Proteas for 74. Now, South Africa's biggest worry will be the manner in which their batting collapsed in the 176-run chase. For India, the biggest concern remains the form of skipper Suryakumar Yadav and vice-captain Shubman Gill. The captain has not had a T20 International half-century since October 12th in 2024, while Gill has failed to breach the landmark in the format since July 13, 2024. The skipper and his deputy will have to set the record straight before India begins their T20 World Cup title defence. And for more on this, we have Narayan Singh joining us. Well, Narayan, after being bowled out for just 74 in the first game, what changes is the South African camp looking at to address that dramatic batting collapse ahead of the second T20 International?
Lipakshi, if you take a look at the first match where we won by a massive margin and South Africans were bowled out for 74 runs, I think there was no, we can say that, problem in South Africa's combination in that match. They played a fantastic playing 11. But thing is that the Indian bowlers, especially when they bowled in the conditions when there was too much dew, they bowled so well that they could not just stood in front of the Indian bowlers. So hoping that they will try to just negate that factor here, and they will try to play in a better way here at the Mulanpur in the Chandigarh. But here also there will be few surprises, because first time this venue, that the Mulanpur, the new Chandigarh Stadium, is hosting the men's international match. Many IPL matches were played there, but it also gave a wide spectrum of output. Some matches were over 200 plus and some were low score thrillers and some more middle scores. So we can say that it will be we can say that present a mystery element for both the teams, as it will host the men's international match for the first time. But we know that definitely South Africa will look to make few changes in their side if they want to bring some spinners in the context that if they bats first here, that will be some better thing for them, because we know that the kind of bowling they did, especially on that day, at one point of time, it was looking like that they can contain the Indian batters. But when Hardik Pandya came, what an inning he played. Definitely, that changed the complexion of the whole match in the favor of India. And after scoring a massive, we can say that inning, Hardik Pandya will be in the limelight. But I think here, again, the first over, the initial 2-3 overs will just tell the direction of the match, as happened in the first match where Arshdeep Singh, the way he removed Quinton de Kock in the first over too, it just, we can say that told us the trajectory of that match. But all in all, we can say that Dew will be a factor, Hayes will be a factor here, and also a surprise element will be there from the pitch. But India, the way we take a look in the recent head-to-head record between the two teams is 6-2, and India is a dominant force in this format of the game. If we take a look after the T20 World Cup 2024, where the two teams were in the finals, after that, India has a fantastic record. They won 27 matches and lost only 4 matches. So it shows that India's strength in this format of the game, and with only 9 matches remaining for India ahead of the coveted T20 World Cup that India will host next year in February and March in India, it will be crucial for India to just settle to a settled team, and there should be a clear communication between management and the players that this is your role and you do this thing. And same for the South Africa too, because we know that South Africa in this format is not looking up to the mark. If you take a look at the last few matches, especially after that World Cup, they lost 17 matches and won only 9 matches. So it's a big concern for them, South African team, hoping they will just settle all these points for them also.
Absolutely, Narayan. Indian team definitely is in a great form. Thank you so much for all those details. And India also produced a dramatic comeback in the Junior Hockey World Cup to defeat Argentina 4-2 and clinch their first ever bronze medal in the tournament. Now trailing 2-0 deep into the third quarter, the host delivered a breathtaking final quarter performance. The visitors, Argentina, held a threatening 2-0 advantage heading into the final 15 minutes. India launched a relentless comeback in the fourth quarter. Ankit Pal pulled one back from a penalty corner with 11 minutes left, injecting life into the contest. India struck again in the dying moments with Akash Singh converting yet another penalty corner. And world number 1 Magnus Carlsen and Levon Aronian will square off in the final of Freestyle Chess Grand Slam on Thursday. Both had to work hard for their place in the summit clash as the semi-final games went down to the wire and the winners emerged from tie breaks. Carlsen defeated Uzbek Grandmaster Devokir Sindarov after a tough battle, while Aronian triumphed over Vincent Kemar of Germany. Aronian defeated Carlsen on his way to winning the Freestyle Chess Grand Slam title in Las Vegas earlier this year. Carlsen had already secured the 2025 Freestyle Chess Grand Slam Tour title by reaching the last 4 stage. Carlsen led the overall tour standings with 80 points, hence he only needed to secure a 4th place finish to bag overall victory. And Nico Reilly's strike and Erling Haaland's penalty helped Manchester City fight back and beat Real Madrid 2-1 in a tense Champions League contest at the Santiago Bernabeu. Rodrigo opened the scoring with a low shot in the 28th minute. Just before the halftime, Antonio Rudiger conceded a penalty by wrestling Erling Haaland to the ground. Striker Haaland made sure that he converted the penalty. The result moved City to 4th place in the group with 13 points from 6 matches, while Madrid slipped to the 7th. The loss put Real manager Xabi Alonso under scrutiny as Real's dismal run extended to just 2 wins in 8 matches. And Kolkata is preparing for a grand celebration as the city readies to welcome Argentina footballer superstar Lionel Messi on the 13th of December. The Argentina Football Fan Club Kolkata created a striking tribute in Salt Lake, replicating Messi's Miami home with terrace statues, terracotta tiled roofs and life-sized cutouts of the footballer and his family. The organizers have designed the exterior to resemble Messi's Miami mansion, while the interior has been transformed into a museum celebrating his illustrious career. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.